Hello and welcome back to another video of the Brainy Heart. In this video, I'll be talking about the physiology of the kidneys.
Also, this is part 2 of a two-part video series. Part 1 was about the anatomy of the kidneys. So be sure to check it out here. I'll also link it in the description below. So here's a quick preview of part 1 of this video. Now on with this video.
Your kidneys have two main functions, which is filtration and collection. And collection includes the collecting of the waste products and then sending it out through your excretory system. There's one more function that I actually want to add on, and that is the balance of water inside your body. We'll just call it water balance for now. So now I want to talk about these really important units of function called the nephrons. So let's look at the nephrons in detail. So in a kidney, the nephrons might look something like this. So you have these nerve endings over here. So your nephrons will dip down, and then they dip down in the medullas. And the reason why I drew the starting really curvy and bendy, that's for a reason, and you'll see why. So there are about a million, yes, million in each kidney. So that is how your blood is getting filtered. Let's talk about the anatomy of the nephrons. So you have the renal artery that supplies the blood, right? But if we look at the picture over here, the renal artery breaks down into smaller and smaller arteries, and then and if you don't know, as the arteries get and smaller arteries are called arterioles, and the smallest of the arteries are called capillaries. So when the renal artery becomes a arteriole, this is how it might look like. So it's carrying the blood. And this area is really twisted, and that's how it looks. And then this is not the best drawing of a artery, or a arteriole, I should say, but that's something that it might look like. And these bends might be folded even more or less than this. So this right here is the afferent arteriole. And one thing you should know is that afferent means incoming. And then we have the efferent arteriole. And normally, efferent is normally the veins that's carrying out the blood. But here it's a different situation.
Which will make sense later.
The efferent arteriole, I should say, takes the remaining blood to the vein, renal vein. And just so you know, the renal vein literally just doesn't start out of nowhere. It branches into a one big vein, which takes it to a bigger system of veins, and then finally to the inferior or superior. In this case, I think it would be the inferior because it's the bottom half of the body, into the inferior vena cava, and then into your ventricles and atria of the heart. But this is just a rough drawing. So this area is very important. So you have a lot of cells over here, you have a lot of cells over here, and these cells are actually called podocytes. And what these do is that they absorb 1/5 of the fluid that is passing this area over here. And this area where the arteriole bends and gets twisted is called the glomerulus. But coming back to the podocytes, they absorb 1/5 of the fluid that's passing through the glomerulus, and then it's sent into the Bowman space. So if you extend this over here and over here, this area is the Bowman's capsule, this whole area. And then your Bowman space would be the space over here. So the 1/5 of the fluid that gets absorbed by the glomerulus and the cells in the glomerulus is sent into the Bowman's space. And this blood contains sodium, glucose, amino acids, and other smaller molecules. Fluid, which I'm going to be calling filtrate from now on, will not contain any red blood cells because they're too large, and it will also not contain any large proteins, as the glomerulus and the cells won't be able to absorb all that. So one easy way to think about this is that the glomerulus and the cells act as a mask. As you might already know, a mask does not prevent all the germs from entering your face. It prevents almost every germ, but some still get past the mask. And that is exactly what's happening in the glomerulus. Small molecules of sodium, glucose, amino acids are getting past the glomerulus, is getting absorbed by the glomerulus, I should say. That's a better word, absorbed, and into your Bowman's space. So that was the starting of a nephron. So here we have a zoomed out picture of a nephron. So we have the afferent arteriole over here, the efferent arteriole over here, and then we have our glomerulus over here, and then we have the Bowman's capsule, which looks like a moon. And then after the Bowman's capsule is what I want to talk about right now. So after the Bowman's capsule, this waste, after the Bowman's capsule, so once this filtrate passes the Bowman's capsule, it's sent into the proximal tubule, which is this tube over here. That's a great outline, which is this tube over here. And this is called the proximal tubule, or the proximal convoluted tubule at the areas where it's convoluted, and at the areas where it's straight, it's called the proximal straight tubule, but you could just call it the proximal tubule if you want to mention it as a whole. And then from the proximal tubule starts the loop of Henle. This loop over here is the loop of Henle. This is where everything gets better. So remember how I told you that the nephrons dip down into the medulla and then back up into the cortex? Well, this dotted line represents the border between the cortex and the medulla. So this is when the filtrate enters the medulla, and this is where it gets fun. So over on the left side of the loop of Henle, in the medulla, is where your H2O can get reabsorbed by the body. So this is where your kidney is balancing out the water that needs to be inside you and that has to get outside you through the urine. So if you're very dehydrated, a lot of water is going to be kept in your body and less water is going to be in your urine. So that's why your urine might be darker when you're dehydrated. So when you're hydrated, your nephrons still make sure that the body is reabsorbing the water. This time, it's not a lot of water, but it's still reabsorbing. If there is no reabsorption of water, then the urine created by the 2 million nephrons, the urine will have gallons and gallons of water, and that is not good for you because your body needs water. So we come to a Goldilocks situation here. Not too much, not too less, just right. You need the just right amount of water inside you, the just right amount of water getting kicked out of your body. Anyways, coming back to the loop of Henle, all this happens on the left side of the loop of Henle. On the right side is where the salts get kicked out, like sodium and other salts. And this is why your medulla is super salty, because all the salts are there. In the process, and one thing I forgot to mention is that the process in which the H2O is getting kicked out is called osmosis. Osmosis is nothing but the diffusion of water from a lower concentration to the higher concentration.
If you want to learn more about osmosis, you can check out some videos by Khan Academy, which I'll link down in the description. Now, coming back to the reabsorption of salt,
This side does not send out any water. However, this side sends out only water. So please remember that, as that is really important. That's about it. And then now you have urine that's gonna be sent into the distal tubule, which is this tubule. And if you didn't know, proximal means at the starting and distal means at the ending. So the proximal tubule is at the starting of the loop of Henle, and the distal tubule is at the end of the loop of Henle. And then the urine is sent into the ureters, and not directly to the ureters, but through smaller networks that finally end up in the ureters. And then the ureter sends it to the bladder, and then the bladder removes it when you urinate through your urethra. The process sounds really complicated, but on the outside it's really simple. So I hope that made sense, and that was it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned from it, and I'm always open to comments, questions, and or suggestions. This is the Brainy Heart signing off. I'll catch you later in the next video.